Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we like to pick one really fascinating topic and, well, dive deep. Today we're going to be looking at how AI is shaking up the world of film and video production.
It's pretty incredible how fast things are changing.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, just imagine a world where, AI is writing the scripts and casting the actors, even directing the cameras.
It sounds like science fiction, but some of it's happening.
Exactly, and that's what we're going to be digging into today. Our deep dive is based on a really interesting article from March 2024 by Stuart Townsend, who's an expert in AI and sauce sales.
The article is called Exploring the Impact of AI on Film Production in 2024.
Right, so we're going to be covering a lot of ground today, from how AI is already being used in Hollywood to, the potential benefits and challenges, and what a movie set might actually look like in the future.
It's a pretty exciting time to be following this technology.
For sure. And speaking of how AI is already being used, did you know that AI played a big role in Disney's The Jungle Book?
Yeah, those amazingly realistic jungle environments.
Exactly. AI was used to create those visuals.
It was a pretty groundbreaking use of AI for something called photoreal rendering, basically bringing those still images to life.
It's wild to think that something that feels so natural and organic in a film is actually being driven by these complex algorithms.
Yeah, it's pretty mind-blowing.
But AI isn't just being used to, create realistic backgrounds and things like that. It's also influencing the stories themselves. Townsend talks about another film, a sci-fi horror film called Morgan.
Oh yeah, that's a really interesting example.
Yeah, they used AI both behind the scenes to make the trailer and in the actual story itself.
The main character is actually a risk-managed AI.
I know, it makes you think about how we even define intelligence and consciousness.
Definitely blurs the lines between tool and art.
Absolutely. But let's shift gears a bit and talk about pre-production.
Sure.
Townsend really digs into the impact AI is having on the pre-production phase, especially for screenwriters.
It's pretty revolutionary. Imagine AI that can analyze hundreds of scripts in no time, identifying trends, predicting how audiences will react, even suggesting improvements to the plot or the dialogue.
It's like having a superpowered script doctor on call 24/7. But could that lead to, a bunch of movies that all feel the same?
That's a valid concern. I mean, if everyone's using AI to tell them what works, wouldn't we end up with a bunch of formulaic films?
Exactly. That's what I was thinking.
Townsend seems to think that the key is finding that balance between using data and human intuition.
So using AI as a tool to make things better, not to replace human creativity altogether.
Right. It's about AI and humans working together. AI can analyze all that data and find patterns that we might miss, but human writers, they bring their own experiences and emotions to the story.
It's like a partnership where each side brings something unique to the table.
Exactly. And this idea of collaboration, it goes beyond just screenwriting. Townsend talks about how AI could change the way we storyboard and pre-visualize films, too.
Yeah, traditionally that's involved a lot of sketches and revisions.
Right, but AI can create these really lifelike 3D animations of scenes, model how actors would move, and even get a sense of the emotional impact of a sequence before you even start shooting.
Wait, did you say predict the emotional impact?
Yeah, that's right. AI algorithms can analyze things like facial expressions, body language, the music, even the editing to predict how people are going to react emotionally.
That's amazing. It's like having a crystal ball that tells you whether a scene is going to be funny or scary or sad.
It's a really powerful tool, and it shows how AI can be used not just to automate things, but to make the filmmaking process more creative and efficient.
So it sounds like AI is really shaking things up in pre-production, but I'm curious to know how AI is being used during the actual production phase, like on set.
That's where AI-powered camera systems come in. Imagine a camera that can track subjects perfectly, adjust focus and exposure automatically, and capture perfect footage no matter what the lighting is like.
Wow, that sounds like a dream come true for any filmmaker.
It does, doesn't it?
But wouldn't that take away some of the artistry of cinematography?
That's a great question, and it's something Townsend addresses in his article. He emphasizes that AI should be a tool to help cinematographers, not replace them.
So it's more about giving cinematographers more freedom to focus on the creative side of things, like composition and lighting.
Exactly. AI can handle the technical stuff, and humans can focus on the art.
Makes sense. It's like having a really skilled assistant who can anticipate your needs and help you execute your vision.
Right. A collaboration between human and machine.
This is all very exciting, but I'm starting to wonder about the downsides. I mean, if AI can do so much, what happens to the people who work in the film industry?
Yeah, that's a big question, and it's one we're going to explore in the next part of our deep dive.
So before we get too carried away talking about all the cool things AI can do, let's address the elephant in the room.
The jobs question.
Exactly. What happens to all the people working in film if AI starts taking over all these roles?
Townsend definitely tackles that in his article. He thinks the industry's going to have to adapt. It's not necessarily about replacing human jobs, but more like redefining them.
So instead of AI versus humans, it's more about AI and humans figuring out how to work together.
Right. It's about collaboration. Like, AI might be able to write a script, but it takes a human director to bring that script to life, to give it their own style and vision.
So it's not about AI taking over, but more about finding ways for AI and humans to both contribute their strengths.
Yeah, exactly. Like, take those hyper-realistic CGI characters we were talking about. AI might be able to create them, but it's the human animators who give them personality, who make them believable.
I see what you mean. It's like AI can handle the technical side, but it's humans who bring the heart and soul.
Precisely. And that's true across all aspects of filmmaking, from pre-production to post-production.
But I imagine it's still pretty unsettling for people working in film. All this talk about AI, it must make them wonder about their future.
I'm sure it does. It's a big change, and change can be scary.
What advice would you give someone who's feeling anxious about all this?
I think the most important thing is to stay curious. Don't shut down, Learn about AI, experiment with it, see how you can incorporate it into your own work.
So instead of resisting the change, embrace it and see where it leads.
Exactly. The film industry has always been about innovation, about pushing boundaries. This is just the next step in that evolution.
That's a great point. And it reminds me that the film industry has gone through a lot of changes over the years, like the introduction of sound, the transition to digital filmmaking.
Right. And it's always found a way to adapt and thrive.
So AI is just the latest challenge, and I have a feeling the industry will find creative ways to meet it.
I agree. And who knows, maybe AI will even open up new possibilities, new ways of storytelling that we can't even imagine yet.
That's the exciting part, right? The unknown. So we've talked about how AI is impacting pre-production and production, and even touched on some of the challenges and opportunities. But I'm curious to hear what Townsend thinks about the big picture. Like, what's his vision for the future of AI in film?
He paints a pretty fascinating picture. He talks about AI generating entire scripts from scratch, casting actors based on data analysis, creating those hyper-realistic CGI characters, and even producing interactive VR experiences.
Wow, that's a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
Let's start with AI generating scripts. I mean, that sounds pretty wild.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But remember, AI, at least for now, doesn't have the human touch when it comes to creativity and storytelling. It can analyze data and find patterns, but it can't truly understand human emotions or create those complex characters that we connect with.
So maybe screenwriters will become more like story architects, working with AI to shape the narrative, but not necessarily writing every single line.
Right. It could be more of a collaboration. The screenwriter could provide the core ideas, the emotional beats, and the AI could help flesh out the details.
That's an interesting way to think about it. It's like a partnership where each side brings their own expertise. What about casting? How does AI fit into that?
Imagine an AI system that can analyze an actor's entire career, their looks, their voice, even their social media presence, to see if they're right for a role.
It's like having a super-powered casting director who knows everything about every actor.
Exactly. It could help casting directors find the perfect actors for roles, even actors they might not have considered before.
But wouldn't that mean actors are being judged solely on data, not on their actual talent?
That's where human judgment still comes in. AI can make recommendations, but ultimately it's the casting director and the director who make the final decision.
So it's about using AI to inform decisions, not to make them. What about those CGI characters? You mentioned they could become so realistic that we can't tell the difference between them and real actors.
It's definitely a possibility. AI is getting incredibly good at replicating human movements and expressions.
I mean, we've already seen some pretty impressive examples in recent films.
Right. But it raises some interesting questions, like what happens to the role of human actors? And how do we as viewers make sense of a world where we can't always tell what's real and what's not?
It's definitely something to think about. But let's move on to something a little more lighthearted. Townsend also talks about AI creating interactive VR experiences.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Imagine a film where you're not just watching passively, but you're actually part of the story. You can make choices, interact with characters, even influence the ending.
Wow, that sounds like a whole new level of immersive storytelling. It's like blurring the lines between film and video games.
Exactly. And AI could play a huge role in creating those kinds of experiences.
So before we jump into post-production, let's take a minute to recap what we've learned so far about AI in pre-production and production.
Well, we've seen how AI can be used to analyze scripts, generate story ideas, help with storyboarding and visualization, and even operate cameras. It's clear that AI is going to have a major impact on how films are made.
But it's important to remember that AI is a tool, not a replacement for human creativity. The key is to find ways for AI and humans to work together, to leverage each other's strengths.
Absolutely. It's about finding that sweet spot where data-driven insights and human intuition can create something truly special.
So how does AI fit into the world of post-production? That's what we're going to explore after we hear from our sponsors. All right, so we're back and ready to dive into the world of post-production.
Where the movie magic really comes together.
Exactly. But even this stage, with all its creativity, has its fair share of, tedious tasks.
Tons of time spent sifting through footage, editing, fine-tuning the audio. It can be a pretty grueling process.
And that's where AI steps in, right? To help streamline things.
Right. AI can really make a difference here, making post-production faster and potentially even more creative.
I'm all ears. Tell me more. What exactly can AI do in post-production? Townsend mentioned some specific examples in his article, right?
Yeah, he did. There's AI software now that can analyze footage and pick out the key moments. Yeah, it can categorize scenes and even put together a rough cut of the film based on, standard editing rules.
So AI can basically edit a film for you?
Well, not quite. I mean, it can handle some of the more technical stuff.
Yeah.
But you still need a human editor to shape the story, get the pacing right, and, add those little touches that give a film its emotional impact.
So it's more like AI is a really powerful assistant for editors.
Exactly. It frees them up to focus on the creative side of things.
That makes a lot of sense. What about other parts of post-production, like sound design and color grading? Is AI being used there too?
Absolutely. Townsend talks about how AI can create realistic sound effects.
No way.
Yeah, and clean up noisy audio, even suggest color palettes based on what the directors used in their past films.
So it's like AI is bringing a whole new level of speed and creativity to post-production.
It really is. And as AI gets even more advanced, I think we're going to see even more innovative uses for it in this stage of filmmaking.
So we've talked about how AI is changing pre-production, production, and now post-production.
Pretty much the entire filmmaking process.
Exactly. But I'm curious, what does all this mean for us, the viewers? How might AI change our movie-watching experience?
Well, one thing is we might see a lot more movies and TV shows being made.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because if AI can streamline production and make things faster and cheaper, it means more content can be created.
That's interesting.
And that could lead to more variety, more niche stuff, catering to all sorts of different tastes.
So no more endlessly scrolling through streaming services trying to find something to watch.
Hopefully not. And AI could also lead to more personalized viewing experiences, with algorithms recommending movies and shows based on your individual preferences.
I can see how that would be really cool, but it also makes me wonder if those algorithms might end up limiting what we watch.
Yeah, that's a valid concern. We have to be careful that we don't end up in these little bubbles where we're only exposed to things we already like.
Right. It's important to keep an open mind and try new things.
Absolutely. But overall, I think AI has the potential to make film and TV more diverse, more accessible, and maybe even more engaging.
It's definitely an exciting time to be a film fan.
It is, and it's a reminder that technology is constantly evolving, and the way we experience entertainment is going to keep changing along with it.
So what are some of the key takeaways you'd like our listeners to think about when it comes to AI in film?
Well, I think the most important thing is to be curious, to approach AI with an open mind rather than being afraid of it. AI has the potential to really revolutionize how we make and watch films.
That's a great point. It's about embracing the possibilities while also being aware of the potential downsides.
Exactly. We need to think about the ethical implications, especially when it comes to things like bias and representation. And we need to make sure that human creativity stays at the heart of filmmaking.
AI is a tool to enhance human creativity, not replace it.
Exactly. That's the key.
Well, I think that's a great place to wrap up our deep dive into the world of AI in film and video production. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the technical details to the bigger questions about what AI means for the future of film.
It's been a fascinating discussion.
It has. And as always, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Are you excited about the possibilities of AI in film? Or do you have concerns? Head over to our social media and share your reactions. And until next time, keep exploring.